Hello, Hope Church.
God has been so good to our church over the last 32 years.
Each of us Manwiller brothers would like to share something special we appreciate about our church.
Each of us has a memory to share of how we experienced growing up at Hope.
And how these experiences have become part of the fabric of our church today.
Happy birthday, Hope Church.
David Manwiller here. I guess I am the George Washington of iFire. So we started iFire 18 years ago when I was 19 years old, and it is good to remember about the old days. King David says in Psalm 143, verse 5, quote, "I remember the days of old. I meditate on all that you have done. I ponder the work of your hands." We can ponder the work of God's hands seen in the ministry of iFire because we know that it was not just our hands, it was not just our work. God is the one that deserves the credit for all of this. And the reason we can say that it was really in God's hands is because our goal was not to be getting together just for fun or just for a good time, but really to focus on evangelism, to focus on intense Bible study together, and on prayer and on reaching out to others, even discipling younger children in the group and doing service projects for the families in the church as well. And eventually those service projects expanded from just local things that we were doing in Ypsilanti and Southeast Michigan to eventually bringing teens to Shawniga and reaching the natives there, and also Turkey and other countries as well. Really every step of the way in terms of the development of iFire, we wanted to be seeking the Lord, how we could be reaching others. If you want to take a look here at our founding document for iFire, it says that this ministry is a form of local Christian missions. Participants should adopt a missions mindset. And what that meant to really have a missions mindset was to come to iFire on Friday nights with that idea in your mind of how am I going to be serving others, or how am I going to be reaching others for Christ. It says all iFire activities are primarily to benefit the spiritual needs of others and not meant to meet our own personal needs. And this idea of letting our light shine to others is represented in the name iFire. So it has to start with I. We want to be on fire for Christ ourselves and then see that fire spread to others. At this time that we started iFire, we were meeting in a cafe, and we had several people having some visions and dreams that this would be moved into more of a garage or a pole barn of some kind. And so we took that to heart. We looked around, and Mr. Hoppy said, "Oh, well, you can use my garage." So we ended up meeting in his garage for quite a time, and we had quite a good time in there until eventually we outgrew that space. But it is just so valuable to remember the lessons of what we learned and fast forward to the year 2025, and these values and purposes that iFire had originally are still just as true as they were before. Even though we are meeting in a larger place, in a building, it still has the same concepts and principles that we want to see continue to happen for the future. All right, well, I guess that is enough about the origins of iFire.
Oh, it's iFire time?
It's Peter has
When
something
is
to say. Every Friday.
Oh, can I come?
You certainly may.
Excellent. I would like that a lot.
Do you want to tell us a quick story?
Well, sometimes we would do iFire News, where we would put together different, like things that were from the bulletin news, but we would make it a lot more fun. So we would announce things. And Josh Hunt really had that, main character energy where he was able to really, personify himself into the news and really make it more interesting to hear.
I'm Joshua Hunt from iFire News. Now back to our worship service.
Hello, Hope Church. You might have heard of the term founding fathers. Well, I was one of the founding toddlers of our church. I was born in 1991, and 2 years later, Hope Community Church was started. What I've always appreciated most about our church is the people. The fabric of Hope Church has never been about a building or having a building. It's always been about the fellowship of people that God has brought together. Since our church never owned a building when I was growing up, we would meet in hotels or at the county fairground or at college science labs or music halls or other people's church buildings. And at different times, we had services spread out in Royal Oak and Detroit or Livonia and Ypsilanti. And baptism services were held wherever we could find water. Maybe it was in someone's backyard swimming pool or a pond or at the YMCA or a campground. I, for example, was baptized in Lake Erie, and I never got confused about whether my church was a particular building. I always felt much more connected to the people God placed into the life of our church. So growing up, we spent a lot of time in the homes of other church families. I remember one day my dad told us we were going to meet a new family from Wayne who was interested in joining the church. It was the Lula family. We were told to be on our best behavior. I still remember having dinner in their home and afterward listening to their whole family play their recorders. And that's how we met most families back then, around their dining room table or in living rooms, or through just spending everyday life together. And I still think that the DNA of our church today has as its strength that same Christian love and care we show towards one another. We still meet in each other's homes for hope groups. We still do baptisms at the church campground. And even though we own a building now, I still see how our church continues to meet in all kinds of ministry settings, including outreach and evangelism on college campuses all over the state, or Camp Tikvahs in Ypsilanti, West Branch, Pennsylvania, Alaska, or Shawniga. And I am just so thankful for how God has provided for our church and brought together this fellowship of believers. You all have been so instrumental in my own life and for my family, spurring us on toward love and good deeds, and not giving up meeting together, but encouraging each other, and all the more as we see the day approaching. Thank you so much, and happy birthday, Hope Church.
I have always appreciated how much the people of our church care for each other. Some of my earliest memories include Sunday afternoons spent after church with friends for many hours after the service had ended. We would eat snacks together, catch bugs together, hunt for golf balls in the bushes, play Foursquare, and just have all kinds of adventures while the adults had long, boring meetings inside. Sometimes we would have a special event at another church. Like, for example, I remember when we visited a special Thanksgiving service along with some other friends from Hope. As soon as their service ended, everyone else rushed home, and it was just our Hope friends remaining. Their janitor had to come send us all home so he could lock up. I was surprised to learn that this wasn't normal for people to stick around for hours after church. I think it's really special the way that Hope Church people fellowship with each other, even if that means staying way long on a Sunday afternoon, way after the church service has ended. I remember when I was young, Sundays were always my favorite day of the week. I just really looked forward to getting to go to church and see everybody there. And that's still true to this day. I appreciate the people of our church a lot and the special way that we fellowship with each other. I also really appreciate the care that everyone in our church has shown to me and my family, both when I was young and also today showing care to me and Hannah and Samuel and baby Lois during this time. And I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of adventures my own kids have running around after church.
For me and my brothers growing up, we would sometimes talk about what was our favorite day of the year. I can imagine for some kids it might be Christmas or a birthday, but for us, it was always an argument about whether it was the day of Fur Rendezvous or the church picnic. The church picnic is a full day, so that usually made the stronger case. But when Camp Tikvah started, that was pretty amazing, but hard to nail down if a specific day was better. And then, as some of us got to go to the church camping trip, that took the top spot, at least for me. What made these days special wasn't just the fun activities or getting to see friends, but the excitement that comes from growing up looking forward to annual events that were a defining part of my community and life. I'm incredibly thankful to have grown up in a church that has substantially shaped my identity and purpose in Christ. As I've grown up, I've understood more significantly the importance of Christian fellowship and ministry outreach that happens at events like Fur Rendezvous or the church picnic. But I don't think I would have the same understanding or vision if I hadn't grown up with that example. You know, in a world that competes for our attention in every way imaginable, even with wholesome sounding things, I'm thankful to have grown up in a church that provides and promotes numerous opportunities to fulfill our highest calling in service to Christ and His kingdom. And now I'm really excited for my son to get to grow up with those same events to look forward to and hopefully help to shape his life and identity in Christ.
Good morning, Hope Church. Church has always been a big part of my life and has shaped so many of my experiences all the way back to my earliest memories. In fact, my very earliest memory is of exploring with David up at the greenhouse at the Wayne State Science Building where we had church meetings in Detroit. Another one of my earliest memories was also at church. I remember wondering why my mom was struggling to use the drinking fountain at the Eagle Crest building when she was very pregnant with Joseph. But it isn't just things about a greenhouse or about a drinking fountain that defined early church memories. It was the people that mattered so much. I remember when Joseph Barry was born, and I thought it was so cool that both my family and the Barrys were getting a Joseph. I also remember at the 2005 for Rendezvous that my parents let me go all the way to the next table to be with the Boyer family. These were exciting things that were foundational to my experience of church. One thing that stands out to me is that my parents always helped me to have the perspective that no matter what age I was, that I had a purpose in being at church. That purpose might be as simple as retrieving my dad's briefcase or helping clean up. One key purpose was to welcome people. It was a very normal occurrence that my dad might be talking to someone that I had never seen before, and he would call me over and say, "Kid, you wanted to meet someone." I remember one time in 2009 that my dad called me over to meet someone that I hadn't seen before, and it turned out to be Mr. Osborne. This pattern continued all through my growing up, and I learned how to talk to people. I remember one time in late 2020, my dad called me over to meet a family that I hadn't seen before, and it turned out to be the Ferguson family, and I talked with some of them for a while. Welcoming people is now a value that I and so many in our church get to put into practice together multiple times each week. Growing up, I didn't stop to think about the meaning or effort behind these things. Now, looking back, I'm grateful for the sacrifice so many made to give me that experience and training. Thank you.
What I remember about growing up in Hope Church is that everybody was always ready to help each other at any point. This trained me in how to help others and care for others. It was fun growing up and serving the Lord together. Some of my favorite events were when friends and family would get together to help someone else in need or set up an event. These stories had roots in the very beginnings of my life, when my family moved right before I was born. And the people of our church came to help us in many major ways during that time. Well over a decade later, I remember a time going to help Mr. McGuire move. And that was one of the most meaningful times in getting to know my now fiancée Faith before our relationship started. Recently, Faith and I got to see God's love through over 40 people from our church coming to help us fix up the house we will live in when we get married. The power of God's church helping each other has been felt heavily throughout my life. I always felt like I was part of a bigger goal, like I was part of a bigger purpose beyond whatever my role was in the event that was going on. I remember folding bulletins with Mr. Hicks or rolling up utensils for Camp Tikva with Mrs. Soper and others. These experiences gave me a view of the world to see what God was doing to win souls for His kingdom, like through Camp Tikva, where I saw kids getting saved. Even through those experiences of rolling up those utensils, I see how God was using that to really win souls for His kingdom. And the training I had early on in life gave me a vision and desire for being part of that for the rest of my life.
Happy birthday, Hope Church.